There, we're live, but it's just the pre-show for about 3 minutes before we go live over on the radio station. Hey, Morgan Snow, good to see you over in the chat room. We got about 2.5 minutes, and we go live over on Subspace Odyssey Radio. Let me get my drink here. I got a bunch of rowdy guys in here that friends of Flynn's. So they all just walked in. I said, why don't you come on in, and I'll introduce you on the radio. So we can wait. We'll wait till we go live to do that. We'll do that as a special treat for everyone. So see, make sure I've got everything going here that I need to have going. And I wanted to upload a slide for the beginning of the show. Let's get that uploaded. So we got about a minute and 15 seconds left. There it is. I'm going with the dark mode tonight instead of the bright mode. So GTSYT, get to sleep you twat. Get to sleep, you twat, is what I think that means. Morgan, what does that mean? So, cheers. That is damn good sparkling water. All right, we got about a minute left. We go live over on Subspace Odyssey Radio. That is Odyssey Radio, ODYSY radio.com. Go on over, check it out. Let's see. I think we're all lined up there. Kalina, how you doing? She says, Scotty Roberts, exclamation point. All right. There's Michael, Viking Off-Roading. Hey, brother. Good to see you. So we are just about ready to roll here for a Friday night. Got about 25 seconds left. And we go live over on the radio station. And, of course, here in simulcast on YouTube. And also on Facebook and also on Twitter and also on all those other places. Hey, Susie Q. All right, everybody, I'm going dark. Stand by. Don't go away.
Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program. I'm your host, Scotty Roberts, because this here is my show, the Intrepid radio broadcast, coming to you live over on Odyssey Radio, Subspace Odyssey Radio, and that's ODYSY radio.com. Come on over, see all the goodness that is Odyssey Radio, all the other shows over there, and of course the archives of this show. And you can catch the show if you're just listening over on Odyssey. Come on over to my YouTube channel for the live video simulcast, where you can also join the vivacious, sexy, curvaceous chat room. And that is all going on live right now. So come on over to youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. Steph, Cuervo Queen. She comes into the chat room when I'm talking sexy and vivacious. What do you know about that? And so is Susie Q. Sean Stroik, good to see you, brother. Delaney Pearl Jones is here. Good to see you over there. Kalina is here. And Michael and Morgan Snow and who else? Everybody else that's lining up but hasn't shown their face in the chat room, you're welcome. Come on in. Before we get really rolling here, my boy Flynn is in the room. And he has brought with him several juvenile delinquents. And if you wondered what a band of juvenile delinquents looks like, here, guys, why don't you all come over here and step over here. Here they all are.
Get over here.
Let's see. This one, you know. This one's Ellery, of course. And then my son Flynn is over there. We got Damon. I know Damon really well. Now, you guys that I just met tonight, this guy who's bigger than me, but he's a 6th grader.
No, I'm a 10th grader.
Oh, you're a 10th grader. All right. So my son is hanging with upperclassmen. What was your name again?
RJ.
OJ?
RJ.
RJ. And then we've got Flynn, of course. And your name again is Ashton. All right. And I thought that was somebody over there. That's Dean Winchester over there. You can see, if you look, there's Dean Winchester standing by the bookshelf.
That actually
So there you go. It does. Looks real over there. So, guys, what are you up to tonight?
we're going to my mom's house. Illegal stuff.
You're going over to your mom's house? It's a small apartment compared to this
She
place.
said it was
Watch
okay.
it.
Mom
Randy
said
said
no.
no.
Mom said no?
Yeah, but my mom said no.
Oh, so you're going there anyway?
No, I'm sorry. My mom said yes.
Oh, your mom said yes.
Yeah, my mom said
Okay.
yeah.
I told you they're delinquents. Hey, Randall Flagg, how you doing? Thanks, Randall. I'll tell you all about that in a minute here. So everybody say your highs and say your goodbyes. And then you can all take off. There's Rainey. She is joining us in the dark over there, looking like a thug over there.
Really?
She's all done up in her big army coat and her hat because it's cold outside. There you go. You can't arrest me, Shorty.
Yeah,
Ma,
let me
you
show
can come
what-
and sit on my lap for radio and say hi. What? She doesn't feel good. None of us feels good. So, well, thanks
Okay,
everybody.
Damon.
I just wanted to introduce you as long as you were down here making noise. Any special famous last words before I send you on your ways? They get you all the time.
Don't be stupid.
There it is. Damon says straight from Damon's mouth, don't be stupid.
Behave.
Behave.
Don't leave your house.
Behave. There you go. All right, guys. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. That's my live peanut gallery, which is now exiting, so they won't be watching. There's my beautiful wife. Rainey is going to. She's got this same thing I've got, the chest cold, the throat, and all of that. She had it before me, and she's still got it. So good to see you all. Yeah, we can make them into hooligans, said Steph. That's a good word. I like that word. So everybody, welcome to the show. I just thought that was kind of fun for a Friday night. Bring everybody in. Randall says, sorry about Oscar. Thank you, Randall. My old man, cat, Oscar, passed away today. And, I was going to talk about something else today, and I've actually got it up. It's, you saw it in the graphic right here, strategies to live a life of bravery. And I was pulling some things out of, do you remember the old Outside magazine? Well, it's old, but it's still being published. Outside magazine. I used to get that. It's kind of an adventurer's magazine. It's the great outdoors. It's survival. It's fitness. It's going out and exploring. They would have all kinds of topics for. I had a bunch of them up here just because I didn't want to forget the actual topics they did, but I took it down, so now I don't have it up there. Oh well, but they had all kinds of topics. How to survive in the wilderness, how to make camping real again, adventure, excitement, and all of that stuff. And got it up, said Randall Flagg. Awesome. And Outside magazine, I was going to talk about somebody who had written an article about losing a dog. And and the strategies on living a life of bravery. I was pulling some things out of Outside magazine for that, but then I came across that article about a woman who had lost her dog, and it was all on about coping with the loss of a pet. And so I thought that it would be appropriate maybe to say a few things about that tonight, and maybe that can fall under the category of bravery if you think about it. This living a courageous life. It's what do you do when you lose a pet? Now, I have always been one of those guys, even though people who are very dear to me have lost pets, and I've lost pets in the past. I have been one of those it's kind of like I love animals, but I've always been, hey, it's just a dog, or hey, it's just a cat, or hey, it's just a horse. Um, and yet we grow attachments to these other creatures, these other animals. And we had, yeah, thank you, Steph. They're not destroying much right now. It's kind of good. They're all great kids. So today, well, the other night, night before last, Wednesday night, Oscar, you all have heard me talk about Oscar. He's my 17, 18-year-old cat. And we originally picked him up at an animal shelter. And it was about 10 years, 11 years ago, something like that. And that's the only gauge we have, because back then they said, well, we think he's about 7 or 8 years old. So and I didn't know for sure because he was found after a storm in another state. And he happened to be in the cat room. And then all the kids are in there with Rainey and I. And this is before Ellie was even born. And this black cat came up and he would lay down at my feet and he'd talk to me, he'd look up and mom, do his talking. And I pet him and he seemed to be a really cool cat. Now, you know me, I don't like cats. I'm not a cat person. And yet before we left the shelter, I said to Rainey, I think this guy's got to come home with us. And I named him Oscar du Negre, which is Oscar the Black. And so we brought him home and he became a permanent fixture around here. Now, of course, over the last few years now, we've started to see a decline in him because he's technically like having an octogenarian around the house, like having your old great grandfather living in your house who's 80 to 90 years old. And he could still move around, and but he had stuff going on with his hips. He has a lot of arthritis. He had pancreatitis. He had some other things going on. And so very slow moving. He put on a lot of weight. So he got to be this, you'd see him walk through the house. He'd be this round oblong ball with these little tiny feet underneath. Boom, 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 boom. He'd walk through and waddle through the house, sometimes very fast if he really wanted to. And so the other night, we're up in the upstairs and watching TV or something, and Lucy caught Oscar out of the corner of her eye, and they get along just fine. But she turned and she ran after him. They do that every now and then. And Oscar was like, oh, shit, headed for the basement stairs, ran down the stairs, Lucy on his tail, and manages to crawl under one of the cabinets downstairs. And so Rainey's running after him. The kids are, stop, Lucy, stop, leave him alone. And she wasn't going to do anything to him. She's just being dumb. And she's done that before. And well, when we finally saw Oscar again, he was laying on his big pillow bed down on the downstairs floor. And it looked like he may have had a broken leg or something like that. And we're like, oh, crap. Lucy, look what you did. And yet he became very lethargic. Now, that was Wednesday night. Yesterday in the morning, not much change. He hadn't moved. He couldn't sit up to drink. We thought something in that whole experience, I think, just kind of broke him. And he wasn't doing well. We had to lift his head to get him to drink. I don't know if he was tuning out. That's when I think I put up that post, when was it? This morning, early, on my Facebook, and I said, and my Instagram, and I said, looks like Oscar is starting his trek to leave us. And he did not get better. But I would go out in the other room from the studio here, and I'd see him laying on his bed, and he'd just laying on his side, hadn't moved a muscle all day. And I'd go, Oscar. And he'd, meow. You'd hear him say something. He'd talk back to me, and I'd go over and pet him, and he'd purr. So my daughters, Abby and Bryn, we were talking, and they saw the post, and they said, get him into the vet, Dad, please. And whatever it is, we'll take care of it, they said. I said, well, I called the vet. They couldn't get him until Monday. And they said, well, don't maybe he's suffering. And I said, he seems to be peaceful. And they told me, cats have this way of hiding or trying to mask the pain. Maybe that's why he's doing nothing, eating nothing, drinking. So we took him to the vet. We finally got him into the vet this afternoon. And the doc looked at him and she said, he's a very sick kitty. Meaning the pancreatitis, other stuff going on, arthritis. And his leg wasn't broken that she could detect, but it was all swelled up. She says, that tells me, diabetes, things like that. And she went through this whole list of things. She said, now we can do x-rays and all of that. And she said, she wasn't trying to discourage us, but she said, fixing him right now could be very expensive and very lengthy. And we have no idea if it's even going to help him because he's sick. So I said, well, what's the option? Obviously, the option glaring us in the face was euthanasia. So I said, well, what do you think? If this were your cat, what would you do? She said, I would probably let him go peacefully. And she said, because the rest of his life is not going to be good. And it's going to be filled with, it's like taking a 90-year-old in for a series of surgeries. And then you find out they have cancer anyway, kind of thing. And so I said, well, and I looked at her, and of course, my eyes watered up a bit. I'm trying to maintain control. And it was just Rainey and I. And Ellery had stayed home today. And so she came with us. She's sitting over in the chair, and she's on her phone. And I don't think she's paying attention. And the doc says something to me, and I looked at Rainey and I said, well, maybe this is what we need to do. And I started to cry a little bit, and Rainey saw me cry, and Rainey just busted open. And so then I looked down at Ellery, and she's just looking at her phone and looking at stuff and scrolling. And I said, hey there, do you know what's going on here? She shook her head like this. She didn't say anything, but she was just crying. And so we said, let's do this. And I said, we'd like to have the two older kids be here too. Flynn was very close to Oscar, and Rowan not as much, but she loved Oscar just like everybody else. And so we said, can you give him a little something for the pain to maybe calm him down until we get the other kids here? And so Rainey left, 15-minute drive each way to get the kids from school. And we gave Oscar a little shot. And she said, I'm just going to give him a little less than normal. She said, because I just have this fear in the state he's in. She says, if I get him a full dose of like muscle relaxant to calm his nerves, she said, just might put him over the line and he'll be gone. And so she gave him about a half a shot. And I just stood and I just pet his head the way I always do. And I would always take his paw. Whenever he'd climb on the bed next to me or anything like that, or sit on my lap or on the sofa, I always grabbed his paw. And I would always put my thumb in the bottom of his paw. And I just mess with his paw a little bit and just rub his paw. And he'd pull it back and then he'd put it back in. And so he liked it. So I did that to his paw and I was petting his ear. He was giving me his purrs, which sounded very congested. And so it took about 35 minutes, and Rainey came back with the kids. And Ellery's been crying the whole time. And Flynn, very stoic, Mr. Flynn, comes over and he gives Oscar's big hugs and pets him, and Flynn's tearing up. And Rowan's laughing, but I have learned about my daughter, Rowan, my 12-year-old. She laughs at a lot of stuff that she shouldn't laugh at. But I saw as she's laughing, she's wiping tears from her eyes. Her psyche, she deals with grief and pain and extreme emotion. She laughs. She tries to compensate for it. And by the way, I just saw that. Thank you, Steph, for the $10, the little RIP Oscar. Thank you. And so I knew she was hurting. So I gave her a hug. And, when I see Rainey cry or I see my kids cry, I can't even talk about that, and it works me up again. So I thought I was in pretty good control about Oscar, but then my whole family's crying, and so that got to me. So we said, okay, well, we're ready. And of course, they took him back. They prepped him. They had to put a stent in his arm. What do you call it? Not a stent, where you get blood, IV drip thing. And so they had them all set up, and they had a decorative little wrap around it so you couldn't see the needles. And the doc came in and she said, I'm going to give him one shot that's going to totally relax him and make him sleep. She's telling the kids. She's very good bedside manner. And she says, and then I got the pink one that I have to give him, and that will I don't remember the words she used, but end his heartbeat. And she said, and then we'll just listen for his heartbeat. And so she gave him the first shot, and everybody gathered around him. You can imagine the scene because many of you have been through it. And everybody was petting him and letting him know, hey, Oscar, hey, it's okay, buddy. I'm going to miss you. And I said something, and I was trying to lighten it just a little bit for the kids. And I said, well, he's going to go and he's going to catch mice in heaven. And they said, he's not going to eat him in heaven, is he? And I said, well, no. I said, you can't. I suppose you can't kill mice in heaven, animal heaven. I said, maybe it's a catch and release. And they're all having fun. And they kind of soothed, little laughter. But I said, well, here we go. It's been nice to know you, Oscar. Glad to have you, old man. Be on your way. And we'll miss you. Sorry for the pain. And he was there. You could see him. He would twitch his ears every now and then. And then she gave him the final shot when she put the stethoscope to him right away. And she's just listening for a while. And she backed off the doc and she said, well, his heartbeat is still there. It's very, very, very faint. She says, I'm going to go get another little dose just to push it. And she said, but he's still there. And he was warm, and everybody's petting on him and loving on him. And so he went out in a very loved setting. Sorry, I'm crying about a cat. Now, you wouldn't see me having done this. I see people that get really upset about their pets. And then somebody said to me today on my post, Risa Scranton, she said something about, it's hard to lose a pet. And I said, there would have been a time I would have said, he's just a cat. What are we all worried about? Why are we all acting up so much? But, and this is what I was trying to find out psychologically today when I was looking for something. I know that, Steph, but that's something I might have said a while back. He's just a cat. We got to get over this. We got to move on. He's just a cat. Or like I said at the beginning, he's just a horse, or he's just a dog, or he's just a goldfish. And you notice there's some animals we don't have that close an attachment to. Can't cuddle with a hermit crab, but you can cuddle with a cat. So anyway, I was looking for articles and information on grieving over lost pets. And I thought that might have to supersede this whole idea of having strategies for bravery, which is the topic for tonight. Steph, I do too. So I cry at commercials too. Pets have personalities, and they know it. Our cats, our animals all have personalities. Lucifer has a personality. Bob Saget has a personality. And it's kind of funny. Bob Saget, the year-old cat. We're sitting on the sofa. We're having pizza this afternoon. My daughters ordered us all pizza. And she said, you guys want some pizza? We'll order pizza. And they're out of state. They're in North Carolina. And I said, that'd be very cool. Thank you. And I said, pizza makes the sad go away. And we were joking and we laughed about that a bit. But so they got us pizza. So we had some pizza and we're sitting on the sofa watching some TV. And Bob Saget comes up and he's just walking around. He knows. And he doesn't know like we know. It's not like he can articulate it. But Oscar was in bad shape. Oscar's gone. And he comes up and he curls up above my head on the back of the sofa, and then crawls down onto my chest. He's putting his paw on my face, and he goes to sleep right there. And he slept right there. I fell asleep myself, and so he knows too. But Steph says, hell, I love my animals more than I love most people. Well, I think it was Maria Nilsson, Dr. Maria Nilsson, John Ward's wife at the archaeological site in Egypt. She says, I have sometimes a lot more love for my animals than I do for people. And there are reasons we do that. There are reasons we think that way. And this is the article. This is not my original words. This is from Outside Magazine. And I wanted to read this tonight after this all took place. It's called How to Grieve for a Very Good Dog. And the name of the author is Annette McGivney. She's the author of Pure Land. She's the winner of the 2018 National Outdoor Book Award, and she lives in Cortez, Colorado. And she wrote this article for Outside Magazine. It was published in September of 2021, so a couple of years ago. So sit back for a minute. I'm going to read you her article. She says this: when my yellow lab died last spring, I was flattened by an overwhelming sadness that's with me still. She said, and that's normal, experts say, because losing a pet is often one of the hardest yet least acknowledged traumas that we'll ever face. I was walking home from getting my second vaccination shot last March when I suddenly felt like I couldn't stand. Everything about the vaccine was fine for me. It was just that I had lost someone very dear to me a few days prior, and I was overcome with crippling despair. I plopped in the dirt next to the side of the road, wailing while I fumbled with my phone to find the number for Blue Cross Blue Shield's counseling hotline. I explained my needs to an obstacle course of automated gatekeepers and finally got through to a human. My partner died 2 days ago, I managed to say through sobs. Oh, I'm sorry, said the woman on the phone, clearly moved by my distress. She gave me phone numbers for grief counselors in my area. I headed home with tears running down my face. What I didn't say is that my partner was a dog, a beautiful yellow lab named Sunny, who died at 15 and a half. When Sunny was euthanized in my backyard 2 days earlier, I knew that adjusting to life without her would be very hard. What happened instead was more like a tsunami of grief that swept me out to sea. Now that I'm pushing 60, I thought I was fully experienced in coping with the death of loved ones. But the sadness from losing Sunny was far greater than what I had previously endured after the passing of my parents, my grandparents, and other dogs. I was surprised and somewhat terrified that I had the capacity to cry so much. I'm just checking my audio here. There we are. Sorry about that. Little pause. And let's see, where was I? She goes on in her article, if I had lost a human partner, there would be rituals. And being an emotional basket case, understandable. But our culture, hold on, my window is acting funny here for reading this. It's odd. Hold on a second. Sorry for this, folks. It's good radio, I realize, but it's doing weird things to me. It's running off all my edges. There we go. She said, if I'd lost a human partner, there would have been the usual funeral rituals. And being an emotional basket case would have seemed understandable. But our culture treats the death of a pet more like the loss of an automobile. When it wears out, you should just go buy another one. Well-meaning friends and family members had advised this in their attempts to help me feel better. What they didn't get was that I had lost a soulmate, an irreplaceable relationship, not a piece of property. And I think this is what people miss, is that these animals become a part of who we are. We bond with them they're a creature, they're an animal, they're not an inanimate object. So during our more than 15 years together, Sonny was faithfully by my side as I went through a bitter divorce, raised my son alone, dealt with caring for my mother and her dementia, and endured the death of my parents, as well as PTSD caused by childhood trauma, empty nest syndrome when my son went to college, stressful jobs, scary health issues, moving to a new town where I knew no one, and of course, the whole COVID-19 lockdown thing. Now, we all have these things that happen to us. I'm just editorializing off to the side. We all have stuff that goes on. And she's just named just about every kinds of thing that most of us normally go through. She goes on and says, Sonny was like a handrail during the edge of a 1,000-foot cliff. Navigating life's challenges seemed doable because I knew I could hold on to her if I needed. Now the handrail was gone. Trying to understand why I was in such pain, I sought out a few experts who explained to me what it's about these transitions that make them what's about these transitions that make them so difficult. Our pets are there for us when other humans may not be, says Robert Niemeyer, the author of several books on grief and director of the Portland Institute for Loss and Transition. Pets provide what psychologists call a secure base for us, where we can feel unconditionally loved and trusted. We often have the sense that they understand our emotions intuitively in ways that others do not cognitively. Niemeyer points out that the emotional bond with a pet can be especially strong for people like me who are survivors of trauma. And he says one of the great ironies of pet loss is that we're grieving the absence of a very companion who could have made such a significant loss more bearable. So, as it's true for many dog owners, my bond with Sunny was strongest in the outdoors. She shared my desire to wander in the wild more than anyone else in my life. And we did it daily, no matter the weather or what else was demanding my attention. I estimate that we hiked more than 15,000 miles together during the course of her life. On summer vacations and weekend trips, we hiked up to mountain summits and down to creek bottoms, through slick rock canyons and across snow-covered mesas, bathed in moonlight. But mostly, we just rambled for miles in the forest near my house, traveling cross-country on paths created over the years by our feet and paws. Sonny liked to walk about 10 feet in front of me and insisted on carrying big sticks that were a minimum of 5 feet long. She would turn her head sideways to thread a stick through a closely spaced trees, and often look back to make sure I was still there. Isn't this amazing? She would seem to say with her eyes. Yes, I would respond, feeling life's worries fall away. We floated through the forest like synchronized swimmers, immersed in the joys of sticks and smells and towering pines bending in the wind. I needed this time with Sonny, the way many people require coffee in the morning. It was hard to get through the day without it. After Sonny's death, my craving for our daily hikes and for simply seeing her look back at me was almost unbearable. I filled my house with pictures of her face and walked so many miles with her leash in my pack that I completely wore the soles off my hiking shoes. Eventually, I connected with Richard Mercer, a grief therapist and facilitator of pet loss support groups in Boulder, Colorado, who assured me I was not going crazy. The death of a pet is a very big deal, he said. I often have people tell me that they're surprised by that the experience is harder than losing their mom or dad. And there are many good reasons for why this is so. So, unlike losing parents or other loved ones who didn't live with you, dogs and cats have an intimate place in our everyday lives. We miss their constant companionship, unconditional love, and presence as motivators. They're a reason to get up and go on these daily walks. Mercer told me the death of a pet can also activate grief over previous losses. And I knew what he means. I found myself crying about Sunny and also about my childhood dog Lucky, who was kept on a chain and was relegated to sleeping in a flea-infested doghouse, both at my parents' insistence. When Sunny was euthanized in my backyard 2 days earlier, I knew that adjusting to life without her would be hard. What happened instead was more like a tsunami of grief that swept me out to sea. But the pain of loss also involves neurobiology. Our field is just beginning to understand the positive benefits that dog ownership has to human health, says Kevin Morris, director of research at University of Denver's Institute for Human-Animal Connection. Nothing against cats, but Morris says dogs are especially adept at being close friends. All the dog breeds of today came from wolves that were, according to theory, living off the garbage heaps of humans 8 to 10,000 years ago. Dogs evolved to be companions to people in ways that other domesticated animals did not. Morris says researchers have found that a dog decreases anxiety and increases levels of oxytocin, a neurotransmitter, sometimes called the love hormone, that's associated with maternal bonding. A study published in Science documented how simply gazing into each other's eyes created a positive oxytocin feedback loop between dogs and their owners. Loving stares increased oxytocin levels in dogs by 130%, and by 300% in the humans. Another study found that kissing dogs mutually increased oxytocin levels. Research has also shown that prolonged interaction between humans and dogs lowers harmful cortisol levels in both species. Susie says in the chat room, I think pets give you that love that's unconditional. We really are wired to get that good stuff from our dogs, says Mercer. We associate the physical response of oxytocin release to our connection with our dog, and that's a lot of what we miss when they pass. I tell Mercer I put pictures of Sunny all over my house and was walking around with her leash, apparently in a desperate attempt to get my oxytocin fix. Doing whatever you can to feel better is a good idea. Mercer says that our culture's widely accepted push to achieve closure by moving on after the death of a pet doesn't really work. The best thing to do is integrate the loss into your life by building a new relationship with a pet who is no longer physically present, he explains. We can give form to this relationship by honoring the memories of our pet, telling stories, journaling, and acknowledging our pain. And these memories embody not only the actions of our pet during their lives, but also the events of our lives when the pet was supporting us. Last March, when my 24-year-old son Austin and I decided it was time to put Sunny down, he flew from Los Angeles to my home in southwestern Colorado so we could give her a proper send-off. Sunny was being ravaged by cancer, but she still had an appetite. Our tight 3-member pack, which had been the bedrock of Austin's childhood, gorged for 2.5 days on salmon, hamburgers, sausage, and some of Sunny's unusual favorites, including Gouda cheese and lemon cake. Sunny could no longer hike in the forest, but we waded out with her into the Dolores River, where she had loved to swim. After Sunny was euthanized on her favorite patch of lawn amid swirls of fat snowflakes, Austin carried her inside and placed her on my bed. I anointed her with essential oils of ponderosa pine and blue spruce and tied a big pink ribbon around her neck as we prepared for her cremation. I had always joked that pink was Sunny's best color, even though she was incredibly strong and fearless. And in the coming days, I would tie pink ribbons around the candles, my wrist, the box that held her ashes, and a stick in the backyard where I built an altar, all to remind me of Sunny's life and the tender, sacred ceremony of her passing. This brought me comfort, maybe even oxytocin, as did some of the other tips offered by grief experts. One of the best pieces of advice I received was the license to cry as much and as often as I needed to. I have cried every single day since March 25th when Sunny passed. Plenty of people experienced this. I wailed like a little boy, Robert Niemeyer says of a cat he had several years ago that was killed by a car. It was the purest and strongest grief I have ever felt in my life. Copious crying is our body's way of achieving homeostasis by physically releasing strong emotions. Though letting the tears flow is healthy, it's crucial not to remain stuck in that kind of despair. My thoughts often turn to Sunny's tough final 3 weeks rather than to the wonderful years we shared. Mercer encourages people to make a conscious effort to focus on the good times and burn these happy moments into their brains. Meditate on these memories as if they're happening in the present and remember how you experienced them through your senses, he says. This is very grounding and builds resilience so that we're better able to handle the tough memories. Following another of Mercer's suggestions, I joined the pet loss support group he leads for the Humane Society of Boulder, Colorado, in the Boulder Valley. Pet loss is a disenfranchised grief, and not everyone gets it, he says. So much of what comes out of the group is just normalizing and validating our feelings. The goal of the monthly meetings is to provide a safe place for grieving pet owners to share. Some participants hold a picture of a pet who died a few days prior and simply cry. Others tell stories of a pet they lost years ago. I found every meeting to be like a giant hug. And one of the most surprising and hopeful things I learned was that my love for Sunny could be the bridge to bring a new dog into my life. Not as a way to replace her, but to honor her. Some people may feel it would be too painful or disloyal to get another pet, says Niemeyer. But the deeper way of honoring the pet is to apply the lessons of loving and living this creature that this creature made possible for you by sharing that with another animal when you have reached the appropriate point in your grieving process. This kind of love is so robust that it survives the pet's physical absence. As I stand there soaking in the beauty, Sunny's physical absence often brings tears. But then in an instant, just as the sun drops below the horizon, all the clouds light up with fiery shades of pink, and I feel her essence in every inch of the sky. In June, after speaking with Niemeyer, I decided to reach out to a Labrador Retriever rescue operation near Colorado Springs, Colorado, a way to lay the groundwork for the day, maybe a year or two away, when I would be ready to adopt a new dog. I spoke with a breeder involved with the group and told her about Sunny. We agreed to touch base again in early 2022. Then she called a few weeks later. I know you weren't planning to adopt anytime soon, but there is this dog who really needs you. She said, you would be the perfect owner. The dog was an 18-month-old yellow lab named Trudy. Her owner had severe dementia and kept her confined in a cement dog run. A neighbor had contacted the rescue operation to report Trudy's suffering. She'd been left alone in a record summer heat and never walked. Nobody knew if her owner was giving her food or water. The next day I drove 8 hours to Pueblo, Colorado to rescue Trudy. If I had not received counseling on pet loss, I probably would have declined, thinking I was too heartbroken to care for another dog. Instead, I took Trudy home and was soon watching her roll around in the grass and lie on a dog bed and play with toys, probably for the first time in her life. Trudy seemed like a gift from Sonny, or at least a karmic manifestation of Sonny's positive influence in my life. I bought her a bright red leash and have been slowly teaching her to walk in the wild. She's partly crippled from being confined to a cage, so there's healing to do. We're healing together. Trudy and I wander daily on a mesa near my house. It's an awe-inspiring oxytocin generating landscape where a vast expanse of sagebrush is luminous green in the late afternoon light, and the sky is a blue ocean filled with archipelagos of clouds. Some clouds are puffs of popcorn, others are giant curtains of mist dangling over mountain peaks 50 or even 100 miles away. I still carry Sonny's pink leash in my pack. I expect I always will. Sonny! I routinely shout to the sun-kissed abyss while Trudy delights in sniffing the ground. Isn't this amazing? As I stand there soaking in the beauty, Sonny's physical absence often brings tears. But then in an instant, just as the sun drops below the horizon, all the clouds lighten up with fiery shades of pink, and I feel her essence in every inch of sky. On other days, I hike alone through the forest, following the favorite secret paths that Sonny and I made together. Several times I have come upon a tree or a bush that takes my breath away. Tied to a twig in the middle of nowhere, and for no explainable reason, is a bright pink ribbon. So there you go. That is Annette McGivey's story about she and the loss of her dog. So I don't find perfect affinity with that story. And Oscar was a little different for us the last few years, especially because he was infirmed a bit, just a kind of a, not grumpy, he was just a quiet old cat laid around. I've said many times he'd look like a black throw pillow, a furry black throw pillow laying on the floor. And so I mostly shared that for all of you who have lost pets. There's a lot of pathos in that. There's a lot of little spots in reading that article that generate tears on my part, that stimulate my emotions, because it's at the heart of things. And so I think of my dear friend Wendy, who lost her dog, her basset hound, Henry, a couple of months now ago. And she's having a tough time getting over that because she lives alone. She doesn't have other people that distract her from that while she's alone with her own thoughts. And reading up on some of this has even helped increase my empathy for Wendy and her loss, and maybe everybody else and their loss. So Steph says, when I put my dog down, the first call I made the next day was to my therapist because no one in my family could deal with it either. So I made them cry more. And so, yeah, there are things I know. This is different. When my friend Dave died, Uncle Dave, to all of you, I cried for weeks. That first week was a loss for me. I couldn't function. I didn't do any radio shows. And see, I'm already differentiating between a human being and a pet. And I think there are differences, obviously. But I think the love we have for those animals, the human animal or the animal, the creature animal, it's all the same. And like so many of you have said already, that the loss of a pet is sometimes stronger than the loss of a person. It's because we love them unconditionally because they love us unconditionally. That's the best kind of love, isn't it? And so
Thank you, Susie. It's not like this to me. The loss of Oscar is a big, gaping, torn open hole in my family. My kids have been playing all evening up there and messing around, and Flynn's got his friends over. Flynn was pretty moved. He was pretty uh, heartbroken by the loss of Oscar. But they're already in their own hearts and heads. They're moving on a bit, but it hits you at times because you walk out and you go, well, hey, it's only one kitty in the house, so I don't have to worry about Oscar right now, or where he would sleep. It's gone. That bed, we took him in on that bed. He was so sick and couldn't move that while he was still here, he would pee and poo on himself. He couldn't get up and move. That's what made us think when we saw him doing that there's something really, really bad going on. He's not getting over this. And of course, we brought him into the vet. They said, don't clean him up. Don't even try. They said, just bring him in, bring the whole bed in. And we had one of those really big cushions. We actually bought it for the dog. And Oscar took it over before the dog slept on it ever. So it became Oscar's bed. And it was full of his hair and smelled like pee. And it had poo on it, and so did the cat. And we just kind of wrapped him like a taco and carried him out to the car and just brought the whole thing in. And they took and they were going to get rid of that for us. But we're having him, for the sake of the kids, we're having him cremated, put in an urn. Ellery specifically asked for a nose print and a paw print. And the doctor's, the assistant, she said, I do that all the time. And so they're going to send us some clips of his hair. Oh, Steph, it does still hurt. I hope you don't get the impression I'm saying it doesn't hurt. It does still hurt. I understand that. There's differences. It's like saying I grieve differently for the loss of Dave than I would grieve for the loss of my wife. Same thing. I grieve differently for the loss of the loved ones in my life that are human versus the loved ones that are pets. So there's just differences is all I'm saying. I'm not trying to diminish one or elevate one over the other. So, but I agree with you. And everyone mourns differently. You're right. So right now, we've got about 6 minutes left of this show before we leave the radio. And I'm going to save the Living Courageously for another time. I actually have 7 ways to cope with the loss of a pet. And let's hit these very quickly. It's never easy, by the way, to lose your pet. And it's impossible to grieve, but it is possible to grieve in ways that honors your pet's memory. And nothing prepares you for when your pet dies, even when you know it's coming. And everyone's mourning process is different, like Steph just said in the chat room. But there's things you can do to embrace and move through your feelings. And by the way, this stuff isn't just science. This is feelings. We're dealing with human emotion in all of this. Research shows the attachment to a pet can be profound. That we experience the death of a pet the same way we would the death of a person. Why? Your pet sees you. They're there at your best. They're there at your worst. They're with you every day. They're beside you as you move through life-changing transitions, like new relationships, the birth of children, moves, relocations, major losses, and they love you no matter what. That type of attachment creates a relationship that's really rarely duplicated. That's why their death becomes so difficult. The positive lessons learned. I got 7 things here and just a couple minutes to do it, so we're just going to fly through them. How do you cope with the grieving, the loss of a pet? Number 1, remind yourself that your feelings are valid. It's important acknowledgement that this is a legitimate loss and it's okay to feel bad. Like I said, I'm going to fly through these. Number 2, brush off people who suggest it's only a pet. That's frustrating and it's heartbreaking, When a coworker, a friend, a family member, or a neighbor says, "Oh, it's only a pet. You'll get over it soon. Just get another dog or cat or a bearded dragon." And you know what? Brush those people off. Number 3, use art or nature therapy to transform your pain. As a certified artist, I guess you'd call me, I would recommend the healing power of art therapy. Express your feelings through your drawing, or even if you don't know how to draw very well, or paint, or music, or writing, or even planting a garden. You can transform that pain into something really beautiful. You don't have to conventionally be talented to be able to do this. Right after a loss, it's easy to hang on to painful images of the last days, but writing or drawing or painting can be a great way to start shifting the energy. 4, find support and talk about your pet's loss. Talk to your friends and your loved ones. This chat room. Form a group with them. That can help bring peace. 5, practice self-care throughout the mourning process. It can be really tough to take care of yourself when you're mourning a loss, but do what you can. We don't eat. We don't take a shower. Whatever it might be. You might go for days like that. Taking care of your physical well-being is important. 6, seek professional mental help if you need it. Loss can be really intense. Some people might go, "Oh, why would you need to see a therapist over the loss of a cat or a dog?" Because of all the things we've already talked about. It's just as valid and it's just as painful. And number 7, get a new pet if and when you're ready. Some people try to rush that process and get a new pet, but wait if you have to. There's no right or wrong time. They come in at the right time. Trust the universe. Trust God. Trust your instincts on that. So there you go. Those are some of the 7 things you can do. And radio audience, we're just about out of here. Just a few more seconds. Join us over at the Captain's Cabin right here on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. And you can join us and be part of the chat room, and you can even call in, express your feelings. For now, live long and prosper.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid radio program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Hey folks, this is Scotty Roberts, and this is the Intrepid radio broadcast. I've been broadcasting for about 20 years now, covering such topics as science, politics, the paranormal, weird science, weird world history, archaeology, and the paranormal. Everything from ghosts to cryptids to creepy things that go bump in the night. So every week I bring you 3 new episodes. Come and join my channel and also be a patron to this site. So see the details below, and we'll see you here.
Dave, I love you, brother.
I miss you too.
I miss you too, I heard.
Yep,
Did you guys hear that?
I heard that.
I miss you, Dave.
Well, welcome to the Captain's Cabin, everyone. Welcome back to the program. I appreciate your presence here. Thanks for tuning in for the show tonight. I hope that all hit a good spot for all of you and it meant something to you. So thanks for your love and your support and everything that's going on. I do want to mention Ruben Fast Horse one more time. For all of you who know Ruben, know him maybe only through this show. Maybe some of the listeners out there that aren't in the chat room, that you are fellow reenactors that knew Ruben years ago when we all first met. Maybe some of you are part of the Lakota family and tribe. Those of you who know him, and those of you who only know him through the show, go give him some support. He is doing better. Susie has been seeing him every day. And your help has already helped her do that because of her neurological disorders from her brain injury, her head injury. She is not able to drive quite as much as she used to. And so I want to encourage you to do what you can to help. Send them a little bit of money. You don't have to send them a lot if you don't have it. If you don't have anything, don't send it. Just share the link, share it with people, let them know that it's out there. I've had people that have given as much as $10, others 50, some 300, and every figure in between. And so if you're out there and you can, and you have a love for Ruben and a respect for what he does, please go on over to this link. I'm going to paste it into the chat room. It's a GoFundMe page. Oops, I hit the wrong button and I just pasted V. It's Command V. There you go. There's the link in the chat room. You can go over, you can read up some updates, see how he's doing. So far, nothing new today, as far as I know. He is up, he's walking around, he's moving around. He's been a little confused as to why he is where he is. Not a little confused, very confused. Susie said that he talks about me to her, to him, and this radio show and the listeners. And he remembers the radio show. He remembers all of you listening. He doesn't remember anybody by name, doesn't remember me by name, even though I gave him my name when I talked to him. So that's the part of his brain that they're struggling with, and they're hoping is going to, well, they're going to have to rehabilitate him to a certain degree, but they're hoping some of that comes back. So keep him in your prayers. If you can, and you have anything that you can help with financially, please do that. So far, and it doesn't sound like a great deal of money, but if you go over to the, I'm looking for the GoFundMe page. So far, we've had 22 donations, and we have yielded $1,738 to them. And just the way that breaks down, just so you know, out of those donations, $1,738,
There is 1,545 that's already been transferred, another 135 that's in the process from today's stuff being transferred, and only out of the $1,783 that were $1,738 raised, only 57 has gone to GoFundMe for fees. It's 3%, $57.03. So they've raised 1,738, of which minus 57 off of that, and you get the idea how much is going into their bank account. 1,600 and something. I'm not that fast with numbers, so there you go. So please click on that link or paste it and go check it out. And do think of throwing in some support for Ruben. I hope some of the people who've slipped off since we started, we've had about 3 or 4 people drop. I hope it's not because we're talking about something like this. So this is only a few minutes, and it's a dear friend of this show. So do what you can. If you can give $5, give $5. If you can give $500, give $500. If you can't give anything and all you can do is share the link, please share the link. And if you can't even share the link, I don't know why you listen, because that's all part of this program and the people that we say we love and respect. So I'll leave it at that. So how's everybody doing? I'm going to grab the link to call into the show. If you want to call in, we got a little bit of time here. As you heard while I was talking and reading tonight, throat is still not back to normal. Rainey started today, a week into this thing, and her voice is cracking all over the place. And mine it's changed. It's not just rough. It's crackly on the edges, which it wasn't before. And my chest is a little more crackly. But again, I don't feel sick at all. It's just the only thing that feels sick is my voice and my throat. And a little mild, it's like a mild cough. It doesn't seem that bad. We still haven't got significant snowfall up here. They are saying we're going to get it this weekend. And they're even saying that probably not significant. So we're into the end of the first week of January in Minnesota and Wisconsin. And so far, all we've had is a little dusting of snow, which in the sunshine, frankly, when it's only 22 degrees or 25 or 30 degrees out, it still melts off the surfaces. So we haven't had snowfall this year. Now, what that can mean for us up here, if we don't get certain number of inches of snow or feet of snow up here, we could have a very dry spring and summer. Now it's very possible we could have a very dry winter and be flooded out in the spring. That's possible. Oh, and by the way, on that point, we had everything fixed with our drainage tile and dug trenches and all of that from our window wells where we were leaking. That's all fine and good. It worked. But 2 weeks ago, we had all kinds of rain and damp and all that. And there's a crack in the foundation here. So we got water leaking in a crack in the foundation, kind of in the same spot. So it came out just a few feet from the wall in a kind of a long, skinny stream, but we kept that up and we put dehumidifier and fans on it. Now we got to figure out what to do about that by spring when it starts to get really wet outside. So anyway, Steph says, I watch a guy on YouTube and he's saying in the next 2 weeks will be 3 storms. Boom, boom, boom. Where are they hitting? Just all across the United States? I hadn't heard. So it'll be interesting. Here's Michael. How you doing, Michael?
How you doing, brother? No, I heard that about, losing a pet. And, I lost my dad recently and it hurts. But,
Sure
it's a different kind of hurt. I lost a pet that I had for 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, it might sound bad, but, that hurt worse than.
Sometimes people think it sounds silly. I'll even admit there's times I think it sounds silly.
Yeah.
I think, come on, get over it. It's just a cat. It's just a tarantula. It's just a boa constrictor or a fish or a dog or a whatever. And yet we create these bonds these emotional bonds with them, and they create emotional bonds with us. So it's really interesting on a scientific level, psychological level, but it's very true.
I'm with these two here all the time. I sit here and I
Yeah.
go to school. One's at my feet. If
Hey,
I
Claudette.
go lay down, one's laying on one side, one, when I was sick, there wasn't nobody else around, but them two big old dogs was, and like you said, Wendy, I saw the loss that she went through, and that was her child, and and she told me, she said, my protector, and nobody wouldn't think of a basset hound as being a guard dog, but that was the guard dog for her, and I have told people,
I will tell you, no offense to anybody, I don't mean this to deride anybody or the way they feel, but I have always, for years, I hear the term fur babies, and it makes me bristle a little bit. I've known people who don't have kids and their pets are their fur babies, or people that do have kids and their pets are their fur babies. I got to tell you, I'm going to give you a really extreme hypothetical scenario. If I had to sacrifice somebody, one of my children, I mean, I'm talking about whatever the circumstance may be, you think of what it is. If you had to let somebody die and let somebody live, and the choice came down to my child or my dog, I mean, sorry, Spot, it's been nice knowing you. I love you. Thank you for giving your life to save my child. My choice would always be with my children. Now, that's because I have children, and I have human children. I have cats and dogs. So some people are not like that, and I understand that.
We had another dog when James was little. She went between him and a copperhead in the yard and got bit in the neck. And I tried my best to save that dog because she had give everything that she had, in this plane to save one of my kids. And I told him, I said, you couldn't ask for more of a sacrifice than to give everything that she had to save him, and and that's one of the reasons when I lost Snowflake, I had been working on the road. I'd come home. She's laying on her bed. They told me she's sick, not been eating. I went to use the bathroom. And I remember I got done. I went out and I petted her head, and I told her, I said, I got to walk across the street. I'll be right back. And she had passed away in like the 20 minutes it took me to walk across the street and come back. And I tell people, I'm like, that dog waited to tell me bye. She knew how close she was. And I made her a promise that night. I said, if there's ever a pit bull in need, I will champion your cause. Because, she's a good dog. And that's like the damn Wicked Women. I told him, I said, hey, get your bump hound and your plate carrier. They're going to put perfectly good animals down for no good reason other than ignorance.
Right.
Right. Like you said, coffee black, tea in the harbor.
Yeah.
I hate to
right there.
I'll
take my coffee black and my tea in the harbor.
Yeah.
So, I'm just more tuned into it today because I had to go through that a little bit today. And I was surprised at my reaction because I thought, I have a lot of affection for Oscar. He's been around for a very long time in our family. And I was surprised when it broke me up at the vet clinic. The doc said something and I was responding, and I'm like, Jesus, I'm crying now. And once Rainey saw me cry, she just bust wide open and cried. And I had to put my arms around her, and then Ellery cried, of course. And so, it's Rainey watched me, and as soon as I cried, she cried. I think she was ready to go already, and she was waiting for me or something. So
I think the older we get, the more sentimental we get, and things like that. And I'm like, so I don't know. Like I said, my kids are grown. My fur babies are still underfoot. Like I said, when I seen the thing for Bravery, there's a lot of things that run through my mind that didn't involve, loss of a pet or whatever. And I'm like, but I was thinking the whole military aspect, the person who runs into a burning building to save a baby that he didn't know.
Right.
But it is, But it does take bravery when you lose something that is close to you to get up the next day, put your shoes on, lace your boots up, or whatever, and carry on. And
Yeah.
oh, someone said they're part of our lives for a little while. We're a part of their lives. Yeah, that is very true. That's very
Yeah, it's
true.
very true. Raymond was going to comment on that. That's
And
because they are, and I've heard it put that they are sentient. I would say,
yeah,
is an animal sentient? Do they have self-awareness? Maybe not on the same level that we do, but I think they do have it. And that might contradict something I was talking about a few weeks ago, even.
yeah.
But I think that it's there. They have a sentience, a self-awareness. They have a different intellectual set of skills than we do as humans. But the way they perceive us, we are their everything. And the way we perceive them, many people look at their pets and think, oh, that's my pet. Oh, we're going on
No.
vacation. Oh, we got to find somebody to watch the pet, and stuff like that. Or, they're not a part of the family. We don't always pack them up and bring them along on trips with us.
No.
Maybe when we go camping and stuff like that, but we don't bring them on a plane and fly to Disney World with our dog.
No,
They stay here. So different concept and different perception of what's what. So they, but when Randall says they're part of our lives for a little while, you're looking at that 8 to 15 years, maybe 20 if you're lucky. We're a part of their lives forever. We're everything to them. And that's all they know. We're the only ones they know if they're in one family for that period of time. Now, I told this story once. We had a big black lab named Buster. And we had picked him up through a rescue. On there, I was mixing that up with Oscar because it was Buster who had gone through some storms, tornadoes or something, Kansas or somewhere down there. And speaking of Kansas, where's Steve? I haven't seen Steve for a long time. But there was a storm, and he got shipped up here with a bunch of other animals that were lost in the storm. And we got him at a shelter. And he was a pretty lovely dog. Big dog. Kids loved him. This was all before Ellery was born. I think he was here before Oscar, I do believe. Sam was still a young teenager at home when we had his Buster. And we were in a small house. I think we had the new baby coming, and there just wasn't room. And we thought, we got to find a new place for Buster to live. We just can't do it here. And we found a good friend who said she'd take him. And she took him. And now he just died a couple of years ago. But she had him, and she absolutely loved him. She stopped by one day, maybe 2 or 3 years after she took him. And she brought Buster with her. And so they came for a visit, and we had a little cookout. Buster came, and he was playing with us all and seeing the kids and having a great time. Now, this is going to speak to the way a dog perceives. Because when she was leaving for the day, she walked out to her pickup truck, and he's running around the yard, and we're all saying goodbye, and he follows her to the truck, and then he's going around the other side of the truck to get in, and he peeks out behind the bed of the truck, and he looks back at me, and he looks at her, and she said, "Go on," and he lopes all the way back up the driveway to me. And jumps up, puts his paws up on me, pets me, licks my face, wagging his tail. And then I said, "Oscar, good to see you," or Buster, good to see you. You go home now. I'm glad I got to see you. I love you, buddy. And he turned around and he ran all the way back to the truck and got in. So it was kind of like he was saying, hey, I'm with her now, but I still love you. I got to come over and say goodbye one more time. I thought that was very cool.
Their hearts are very, very pure, very pure.
Yeah.
There was an old guy told me one time. I asked him. I said, I said, seemed like you're closer to your wife or to your dogs than your wife. He said, I am. He said, the dog loves me more.
Yeah.
I said, how do you know? He said, he locked the dog in the trunk of your car and come back in for 45 minutes, let it out, happy to see. Do the same with your wife. She don't get out of the back of the trunk in the same mood.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like,
She's not happy.
but I said, this one's in here. She's on. I had to put a love seat in here in my studio just so the dog would have a place to sit.
Right.
And there's JP.
JP.
Oh, I was going to say,
Good to see you,
nice
brother.
coat.
Good seeing you.
That's all we saw. That's all we saw was the
Is it
coat.
snowing there?
Yes, it is.
That means it's coming this way. So.
Yeah. JP's gonna have to get out of North Dakota before he frostbite something.
Oh,
Yeah.
I already have a start date.
All right. What's your start date?
It's on or around 19th or 20th of May.
Yeah.
So
Right on.
I
So you
have to
got a
deal
little
with
bit
this
of time.
little bit of time,
May.
but
And it's where again?
it's sorry, vapor locking on you. It's out at the position's out at Scott Air Force
Okay.
Base.
All right. Cool.
That's Illinois, and it's about a half hour from St. Louis.
Okay. I know where that is.
Not bad.
So
I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to it.
you get to
Got a
move.
lot of farmland around there. I think
Do you have any
that's southern
pets over
Illinois,
there,
right?
Jason?
No,
Yeah.
I
soybeans.
don't have any pets. So the last pet I had was in 15, my German Shepherd River, and I had to put her down. She got a fairly aggressive malignant melanoma that developed
Oh boy.
kind of in the
Yeah.
upper jaw, lower cheek area. It metastasized to the bone. It was getting all in. He was in pain, and her whole demeanor was starting to change because she was just uncomfortable all the time.
Right.
And ever since I haven't really been able to, I have off of it. Always excited to see, friends of mine's dogs and stuff like that. I just haven't been able to bring myself to,
I get it.
because she was 2.5 when I had to put her down. She wasn't very old at all.
Sure.
And I guess probably maybe a year before I got her as a pup, I had to put my Shiloh Shepherd Max down. He had T-cell lymphoma, and the gal that I was engaged to at the time had Max. We put him through chemo, and he was making a full recovery, back to his normal self again. And it completely destroys your immune system for a while after you go through all of that stuff. And he caught some sort of infection, and basically I came home from work one day, and he held on long enough basically for me to say goodbye, which was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Because I basically got to see the light go out of his eyes. He effectively went brain dead and was on autonomic function. When we got him to the vet, he had 110 fever.
Oh boy.
So he basically cooked.
Wow.
Yeah, you want to talk about seeing a grown-ass man turning into a snotting, crying,
I get it.
blubbery mess.
Yeah.
So yeah, back to back. It's kind of and he was 3 when that happened. So
Not very old.
right, it was just brutal, and in
Well,
that regard, I haven't recovered.
we were looking at some bearded dragons. We've been looking at them for a couple of years. We've thought about getting them because we had one once that we accidentally killed.
Oh, geez.
He was big. He was about that big. He was my wife's sister's, and he was in a big, tall aquarium, and with a habitat in there. It was real nice. He was very cool. He liked the kids. He liked everybody. Not the kids, my other kids.
older kids. This was a long time ago. We were moving and stuff got brought outside and set while we were organizing the truck. And his aquarium got put outside and it was in the sun, but then somebody put something over the top of the aquarium.
Oh,
Like put like a bulletin board or something and laid it on the top and went and did something else.
so
And
it couldn't vent.
when we ate lunch and all that, we came
Overheated.
back and we found him. He was dead. He got cooked to death in the sun.
I
My
had
mom-
something oddly similar happen. I of all things won an iguana at a basically it was like a, and this is when we were in Alabama when I was a kid. It's like almost like an Oktoberfest kind of county fair sort of thing they had going on, and yeah, I was all excited about it because I wanted an iguana. My mom didn't, and
That figures.
I took him outside because I didn't have a heat rock for him or anything like that, and had him under the umbrella on the patio table on the deck, so he wasn't in direct. But it is Alabama, so it was stupid hot, and
Right.
yeah, he cooked in his little terrarium. That was depressing.
No, that's sad. I'm sorry to hear that. Well,
Yeah.
they saw
I mean-
one. They're normally $75 to $100 a piece, and they were at the pet store the other day, and they have a special. They were trying to clear out a few extra ones they had for $43. And
Mhm.
last summer, we bought at a garage sale. Now we didn't have any bearded dragons. We found a big aquarium, about that long, about that tall. It was like the equivalent of like a 30-gallon, maybe a 40-gallon aquarium.
Yeah.
But it was all wrapped up with all the cardboard advertising things on it, and it had all the stuff for setting up for bearded dragons.
Oh, okay, cool.
And we got it at a garage sale for $10, brand new. I said, let's get that. Randy says, we don't have bearded dragons. I said, oh, but we will. And so it's out in the garage. It's just been sitting there for 6 months or more. And now it's time. I think we can get stuff and set it all up.
Cool.
And have a bearded dragon.
There's two types of bearded dragons, right? There's the fancy ones, and there's just a regular beardy. I had the fancy ones, and like I said, I absolutely love my beardies. My ex-wife killed them when me and her had a dispute. She turned their heat off and froze them to death. There's a special place in hell for people who just cruelly kills an animal. But I remember his Fred and Barney was the big one. And one morning I thought I was tripping. I got to lace my boots, and old Barney's over there waving at me, and I thought, what the hell? But that's how they show, like, submissive or whatever. So you'll feed them, they'll wave at you. And I thought, damn, I'm tripping. This fucking thing's waving at me. He would. He's sitting over there in the aquarium going. I'm like,
Hey, over here, man.
Dude,
wow.
we're here.
The snacks, they're right up
Over here. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, yeah.
Yeah. Snacks
But,
are right there.
Yeah. Like I said, the first one I laced, I thought, no. I'm
That's
seeing
funny.
things. Second boot, I looked up. I'm like, sure enough. And I'm
I
like,
do
wow.
not have a beard, damn it. Yes, but you would if you did, you'd be an exotic one. Steph.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I tell people, even if you don't like reptiles, a bearded dragon will win your heart over.
They're
Towards
so
the
personal.
reptilian.
They're
They are.
like
They're
why they're as friendly and smart as rats.
yeah.
And they are, because my daughters
That's
had
it.
a rat
Always
when they
So it
were
was like a scaly puppy.
10 years old, while we were going through all the custody stuff, and they would come over to my house on the weekends because I did not have the temporary custody, and I had
Pardon my clutter. I'm going through things.
All right.
So
and so
Fair warning.
they would come over, and
down.
the rat was an exotic blue silver rat of some kind, and it would recognize them. And she'd crawl up on the side of the glass and greet them, and they'd take her out and play with her on the floor, and she'd sleep on their laps on the sofa and all that. And she had cancer. And so now they were 9 or 10.
This is, 22, 23 years ago. And I remember I took the rat to the vet. And that's how she has cancer. I could do a surgery, but there's no guarantees. So back 22 years ago, we dropped about $700-800 into surgery on the rat, and she lived another 6 months, and she was gone. If 6 months. So that's something, you hate to say it, but you go, as intelligent as that rat is, and as much as it likes my kids, I don't think I'll drop another $700 on a rat. They have infinitesimally short lifespans.
Yeah.
So
The one thing that I heard, like you said, saying about that was when Henry got really, really sick the first time. Wendy called me and she was tore up, and she said it should be criminal. She said these bastards have a license to print money because it's an emotional attachment that you have, and they play on that emotional attachment a lot of times because you're not going to just let your dog suffer, and they know that, so they hit you with a big old thing. I said, I know she's still paying like $9,000 for all the treatment that he had.
Yeah.
And but at the end of the day, that's her buddy. That was, like she said, her protector, her confidant. And I've even seen her mom say, oh, that's my that's my grand dog. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In that very quaint British accent. And I've heard her before. Henry get into something. I figured out real quick. I did not want mom chewing my ass like she did that dog.
Right.
Yeah, I was like, wow, poor Henry. But yeah, she chapped his ass. I was like, wow. Okay. No, vets have a license to print money. They do.
In some ways they do. Most of the vets that I've ever interacted with, though, they really have been about the animals and quality of life.
Yes.
And, they've every time, we took Max to it's basically a veterinary department that they had at Columbia up in Missouri at the university. And it was very much one of those exchanges where it's like, all right, here's the deal. Here's the costs. There's a reasonable chance of success in this situation, but there's also the reasonable chance of not.
Right.
So, and it's going to take a while. There's going to be multiple treatments, and it's probably going to be rough. And, so good vets will lay it all out for you.
Yeah.
And it's probably the hardest thing it sucks because with River, I took her up to the same docks.
Yeah.
And, they kind of gave me the same spiel. Wow. And they were like, look, here's the deal. This is metastasized into the skull. It's all in the upper jaw. We could go in and cut it out, but we don't know how much we're going to have to cut out of the bone, and then there's prosthetics that you could put in. But, if one of her big things is chewing on stuff, that's like, one of her forms of entertainment that she really loves.
Right.
She's not going to be able to do that because she'll bust up the prosthetic that they go in, and
sure.
it turn into a soft food diet kind of thing.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. And even then, there's no guarantee that it won't come back.
Well,
so
right. Well, that was the thing today. The vet today said there's a lot we can do to, that in theory, she said, these are all the things you could do to preserve his life. She said, what we can't guarantee is quality of life afterwards.
No.
We can't guarantee it's going to do what needs to be done. She says, we can't guarantee he's not going to die anyway.
Right.
So she said, because he's got the pancreatitis, he's got diabetes, there's these other things, we could fix some things, and then something else might take over. And so like I said at the beginning, we thought he had broken his leg, and that's what precipitated all the lethargy the other two nights ago, night before last.
Yeah.
And that wasn't it. His leg was all puffed up, and she felt through it, and he was in pain with it. You could hear me. He's like, "Ah," but he didn't sit up. He just looked at her like, hey, that hurts. That's what he was saying. And she said, I don't feel any breaks in there. She said, there's lots of little bones. We could do an x-ray. She said, but it's all swelled up. She said, which is a big indicator that there's something else going on, diabetic, pancreatic, all these things.
Yeah.
Swell that up. And she said, we can do stuff. She said, but what it comes down to is it's your decision. She said, because you might put him through hell for a year trying to get this all fixed, and then he's going to die in a year and a half.
Yeah.
So, and she was very good about that. And so I'm glad they weren't grubbing for money.
Yeah. Bedside manner means a lot.
We did have to pay, for, it was an emergency. We brought him in, so we had to pay the emergency fee, plus to look at him, and then the euthanasia fee.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the cremation fee. It's all wrapped into it. So.
Yeah, and then that's one of those things where it becomes a very, not to be Debbie Downer or go to dark places and stuff, but when you're looking at things like that, that's one of those things that when you get a pet and they have a finite lifespan, you're more than likely going to outlive your pet. There is you incur a responsibility.
Yes.
To be, and it probably doesn't seem that way, but to be willing to be merciful to that animal, and allow it,
sure,
to get the peace it needs. Mm-hmm. And that's that weighs a lot, especially if you got the soft side,
yeah.
And that's why I know, like, when lost Mike.
Oh, he's just stepped out. I'll bring him back in when he's.
Oh, okay, gotcha. With River, it was one of those things where it's like, okay, I can't. At that point, I had just got released from the military and, was struggling to find work and was not going to be able to afford the treatments, let alone afford to pay my own bills.
Yeah.
And I had to sit there and think about the quality of life issues and things like that. So, when I finally made the decision, and it took me a good week and a half, 2 weeks to actually sit there and mull through everything and then finally schedule, and that was kind of dark.
Yeah.
You're like, well, we're putting this on the calendar. And
sure.
You know what? But that last day was a heck of a day for River. We went on a nice big long walk on all of her favorite routes that we'd take walks on. When I would walk her in the evenings, I'd walk up into the square because I lived just a block off the town square there in Waynesville. Mm-hmm. And if there was a theater production going on, we would always stop in and watch rehearsals and hang out, and everybody would hang out, and if it was a production that I wasn't involved in, but everybody in the theater knew River and stuff like that. And so on that last day, I had people from the theater coming by. I had one friend showed up and said, hey, I hope you don't mind, I brought River a hot fudge sundae.
Nice.
And like,
that's okay as long as you get me one too.
Right. And it's like, River got a cheeseburger, River got a hot fudge sundae.
Nice.
Got like, just like a full, couple of hours in the backyard with everyone from the theater and myself and some friends,
Mhm.
throwing the ball for her, and she'd, go run and get it until she started getting kind of tuckered out. And then we we went up to the local coffee shop where everyone knew her, and they would do like lunches and stuff there, and they had a trained chef that actually worked in the back, and she's like, "Hey, I saved River some of this, chicken pesto
Nice.
pasta that we made," and like, brought a plate out,
Nice.
for River, and River nibbled on it, and we went for a cruise in my 51 Bel Air that I had at the time. A total raffle,
Nice.
but it was a hard top, so you rolled down the window on the door and in the back, and you just had like 4 foot of open window, no B pillar, nothing.
Yeah.
Got those all down so she could get up in there in the back seat, stick her head out.
I believe my mom
and-
had one of those when I was a little kid as a practical vehicle, not a
Right.
collector's vehicle.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
talking the thing was about 9 or 10 years old, and she
Daily
had to drive
driver.
that piece of junk around until she could afford like a Fairlane or something.
Right.
You know,
And then, a few of the people from the theater hopped in the car, piled in the car with us.
and you could fit about 15 in that car.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Had like a 4-body trunk.
Yes.
And we drove up to the vet. They rode up there with me, and some of us met us up there at the vet. And there was like 6 of us in the room with River when we had her put down. So she didn't go alone.
No.
And, it was weird too, because it's like she knew kind of what was coming.
Yeah.
So she kind of like tried to just kind of go chill on one side of the exam room. And it's like, no, I'm good. Just go curl up and lay down over there. And, they were all there.
Oscar today. I think he knew everybody was there. His whole family was there. And he went very peacefully. So, it's like, I suppose it's akin to having to pull the plug on a relative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Akin to that. It's coming. We got to do this now. Everybody's gathered around.
Yeah.
Except when you do that, they're normally not conscious.
Yeah. But,
So,
yeah.
No.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah.
I said, this one, when he gets quiet, I have to go see where he is. Because if not, he's been known to
What
get into
is
things he
he
shouldn't.
doing? Yeah.
it's like small children.
Yeah, it's
All
like
of a sudden
when you
they're
kid
getting
get
quiet.
quiet, That's it. It's like,
Yeah. Exactly.
A little too quiet. What's going
just
on?
like this morning, he got up, and I'd got up and laid back down on the couch because I don't sleep well. And he got up, come from James's room back in here, and he stopped, and I guess he got a little too close, and it kind of woke me up. And I started looking at him. He had slipped into the bathroom where the cat's food and the cat box is, and I was like, "Where the fuck are you going?" He stopped like somebody had just jerked his soul out of his fur, and he's like, "Oh, wasn't me. It's that other dog." Turn around, hauls ass, plumps to the other end of the house. He's like, "Nope, wasn't me." Yeah, I was like, "Holy shit!" But no, like I said, they become such an integral part of our life, our ins and outs. They're little quirks, they're little whatever. And it's like I was working on the truck today, and he got out the door on me, and he just jumped in the truck. He's like, "Hey, we go for a ride. We go back to puppy school. I learned so much."
Mhm.
I'm like,
Cool.
"Yeah."
Hey, Claudette, if you can send me that video, I'd love to see that. So she says, those of you just listening, speaking of orbs, Scotty, my cat came back and played with my other cat a few days after she passed. I videotaped it.
Oh, wow.
It's interesting. Hey, dramatic change of topic on that. My wife sent a little video we have a family chat, Abby and Bryn, my twins, and Sam, and then it's the adults. It's not the kids. The little kids aren't on it.
Yeah.
And that's where we talk about gifts and Christmas and trips and stuff like that. And so they were, it was my daughters that called today, by the way, and said, "Dad, take him in right away. We will
cover any cost on Oscar. And they did. They paid for the whole nut, and then they bought everybody pizza afterwards. Can we buy you pizza? And they live in North Carolina, so they just ordered it at the pizza place here.
Yeah.
They're
And,
close. They're closer to me than they are to you.
Yeah, and I said, paraphrasing a movie line I saw once, a comedy. I said, pizza makes the sad go away. So they said, well, we got it. Well, it's coming. But they, Rainey was talking to them, and she sent them this video of a Tesla car, which my daughter Bryn and her husband both have Teslas.
Mm.
And so she sent this, and she showed Ghost investigating with the navigation system in the Tesla. Now, the Tesla, if you've never driven one, I drove one. I didn't own it. But when I was doing the roofing, my buddy who owned the company owned 3 Teslas. And he let me drive one around. That was one of the inducements. Hey, you come out here. I'll just give you one of the Teslas to drive around. Cool. And it has this big screen. It's like, it's an 1117. It was 17 inches tall and 11 inches wide right here on your dashboard. And you could just program it and mess with it. And it would do all your navigation and stuff. And you could zoom in down to ground level and go all the way out to the globe. And so these guys in this video were in a cemetery, broad daylight. And they said, watch what this thing does. And it's got the navigation on, and the navigation, it's got the auto navigation. So you can take your hands off the wheel and the thing drives for you.
Yeah.
It's got all these sensors out front and the back on all the sides.
Yeah.
It'll move you over in lanes as you're going down the freeway and move you back in. But they're sitting in this cemetery, sitting still. And right out in front of the car, it shows the car, the little icon of it, and it's driving up the little lane in the cemetery at about a mile an hour. And this guy pops up in front of the car, boop, and he starts walking across in front of the car. And the guy taking the video is freaking out. What the fuck is that? Look at what that thing's doing. Look, it's right there. And then another one, then it disappears. And they're showing the camera out the front window. They go, there's nothing there. There's not even a tombstone there. And then they see another one over off. Look, he's over there standing in the grass on the thing. And then he disappears. And another one walks out. And they're freaking out. So Rainey says, hey, when we come out for a visit in the spring, she says, let's go to some cool cemeteries and give your Teslas a try.
Yeah.
Well, they
I
have a
actually think I've
LiDAR.
seen that video.
Kalina saw that. You've seen that? Jason?
Yeah, I think so. It was pretty crazy. I mean, like,
That is.
yeah. They were popping up everywhere, and the vehicle's like stopping and like, avoiding a pedestrian. You're just what?
Jeremy Hansen saw that in a cemetery. We were driving. I was with my buddy, and we were driving across country we were going from Texas up to Utah. And we're driving, and it's the middle of the night. We're just driving along, doing like 80.
Yeah.
And I look over, and Pete's sitting like this with his phone. He's driving. He's like this. He's going, oh. He's playing games.
Oh, God.
I go, what are you doing? He goes, oh, auto drive, man. And it's set up, though. It had a sensor in it. You had to touch the steering wheel, at least touch it on a certain spot every 30 seconds, or it would take the auto drive off.
Right.
Until you restarted the car. So, but yeah. So Steph, yeah, it works, and it was very cool. So I used the auto drive, but I would never like play video games. I tried to pay attention.
Well, there's videos of people going to sleep, taking a nap.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
No.
And of course, you have to have your finger on the wheel at least every 30 seconds. You got to touch the little pad on the wheel. So that's anyway. That was back in 2018. It's probably advanced a bit since then.
or it's been recalled and
Or it's been recalled. Yeah.
updated. Well, they had that whole thing where, and so perfect example of why the news media is shitty. And if people didn't already have enough examples of it.
Right.
But so related to some of the auto drive functions with Tesla, there was a massive over-air update that they pushed, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did this one news media outlet push things? Massive recall of all Teslas with auto drive feature. And it's like,
Right.
no, the vehicle didn't have to go back to the dealer. The vehicle didn't have to go into the, dealer service center or anything like that. It was an over-air software update that they put. Like, but when you say a recall,
Yes.
that sounds like there is just all kinds of massive issues.
Yeah, yeah.
And, rather than something it's just a software update, it'll take, maybe an hour. Just make sure you're by Wi-Fi, or you have your cells, whatever,
Right.
But it's that how information is presented that
Yes.
creates so much garbage in the world.
I get it.
And I just remember reading that and I was like, really, guy? That's the verbiage you chose to go with on this. I know exactly why you chose this, and it has nothing to do with trying to get the word out and make sure everybody's okay. It's just to create drama and sensationalism.
Yes.
And oh God, I hate it.
Scott's got a bug in her ass about Elon.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
I saw some pretty, speaking of that and the way the news media handles things, without getting into a big thing about it. I love the way Vivek Ramaswamy has been treating the media, and they all want to interview him because they all think they can catch him in something, Yeah. And man, does he put everybody in their place.
Pretty much.
And there was one interview he was doing in Iowa. I just saw this video either this morning or yesterday, where this young woman,
short blonde hair.
I don't even know what the context of the friend sitting with her was. She was broadcasting. They had a CBS logo back on one of the TVs in the background, and I thought, oh, it's a CBS affiliate. And she was going to town about trying to catch him up on white supremacy.
Yes,
asking him if he denounced white supremacy. And he said, let me be really clear. He says, I denounce any kind of racism.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't say you denounce white supremacy. And he says, I guarantee you, he says, you're going to go back and you're going to write an article on this. And the headline's going to be, Ramaswamy does not denounce white supremacy. I guarantee you. And he went through the whole thing and really laid her bare.
Yeah.
And what does she do the same day, later in the day? Releases an article with his name on it saying he refuses to denounce white supremacy.
Well, and the funny thing with that one too, right? Well, one, called them out on it before they ever did it.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
But it's like, dude, the guy said he doesn't condone any sort of racism, and he's a person of color. There's no need to ask him if he condemns white superiority or whatever. Like, it is so asinine to hit him with that question.
It is.
Like, they're just
she
doing
really
it
wanted to. It turns out she's an activist, so
shorter hair, right? And it was blonde. She had a dark-haired lady sitting next to her, like in a pink coat or something.
Yeah.
I saw that same bit, and I was just like, these guys are such tools. At least when Piers Morgan interviewed him, it was actually a decent discussion.
Yes. Well, Piers Morgan's a pretty level-headed thinker. Right?
He is. I have really enjoyed watching Piers Morgan. There's that one British guy. Well, it's two it's two other British guys, but one is a supporter or a member of what we'd probably be referred to as some sort of not extremist to the point of terrorism, but an extremist Islamic group, or one that has ties to. And then there's this British, guy that's I think he was like a war correspondent at some point, like on multiple occasions or whatever. And he's just sitting there like, here's why this is stupid, and here's why you're an idiot. And like the guy just sits there and tries to talk over him the entire time.
That's what this reporter did. This woman reporter.
Yeah.
Just tried to talk everything she asked. He's in the middle of explaining it, and she starts, well, what about the it's like,
right.
He said, could I please finish a sentence?
Yeah. I'm trying to answer your question. Thanks.
Yeah.
Like, I stuff like that is those kind of things where you're like, please, Lord, let me see something today that restores my faith in humanity.
Yes. I was going to read for you guys. I every now and then get drawn into George Takei's Instagram.
Yeah.
He's an idiot, may I say.
Oh,
I
my.
liked him as Lieutenant Commander Sulu, but he is nothing but an activist. He's an activist for the left, for progressive left. And all they do is find new ways to try to insult the right on his thing. But he was insulting somebody who came off, and some celebrity, I don't even know who it is, talking about, made some comment about white supremacy.
Yeah.
And people were all about, well, whites are the problem and blah, blah, they're going on and on and on. So I wrote this. I said, I'm a white child of immigrants. My ancestors emigrated to America in 1710, and my family's been here ever since. After 3 centuries, you could say I'm a Caucasian Native American, but not indigenous Native American.
Mm-hmm.
What is my culture? American culture. I claim my Welsh roots, but there was also a healthy dose of Scandinavian in the blood, probably infused during those Viking raids in the 8th century on my ancestors.
Yeah.
A bit of Germanic blood from my paternal grandmother's side, a wee bit of French from God knows where, and a splash of French Canadian somewhere up the tree, which is Native American. Just a splash.
Oh, like Matee?
Yeah, it's something like Matee.
Yeah.
And from about 150 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a white, well, more pinkish, that grows deeper pink when exposed too long to the sun. But after that, like my black, red, yellow, and polka dotted brothers and sisters, I'm an American. And we all make up American culture. So ultimately, who cares what color our skin might be or how our ancestors got here? There was one guy who was trying to make a justification. He said, well, you can't, something about, you can't camp on being white for this. He said, well, you camp on being black. He says, yeah, it's, well, how I got here. We were brought over as slaves, blah, blah, blah. I said, so ultimately, who cares what color our skin might be or how our ancestors got here? We're either unified as Americans or we're looking for ways to perpetually divide.
Yeah.
And I thought that was significant to say something about that. And it reminded me of do you remember who Flip Wilson was?
Oh, yeah.
Black comedian.
Yeah.
I got his 60s and the 70s. He died at the end of the 90s, but he had the Flip Wilson show in the 70s when I was a kid. He was on Laugh-In all the time. Oh, yeah, you're not old enough to know all that stuff, Jason. So,
oh, yeah.
But
I've watched a lot of reruns of stuff.
Gilligan's Island.
But there was a bit he did. They did kind of a Gone with the Wind bit. It was like that was back when the comedy bits on comedy shows were like Carol Burnett, that type of stuff. And the variety show.
Yeah.
And he was playing the black slave mama. So he's playing a woman.
And he's talking like this all through the whole thing. You know, he's a black man, and he's talking like that. I ain't birthed no babies. You know, the famous line from Gone with the Wind. But at the end, the way the bit ends, it's wrapping it up with the Civil War is lost by the Confederacy and the slaves are freed. And so he is this black woman. He sits down on the sofa in the parlor of the plantation house, and he puts his feet up on the table, and he pulls out a cigar from the cigar box and lights it up. And the owner of the plantation is saying something like, "Whatever shall we do? Wherever shall we go? You know, we are oppressed now." And Flip Wilson is the black woman. He lights up the cigar, puts his feet up on the table, and he goes, "We may have come over on different ships, but we's in the same boat now." And so I thought that was a great line. It stuck with me since the 5th grade. So,
You know, that's a lot of truth in that too. You know, the way things are going right now, we are all in the same boat, and it's sinking on both ends.
hey, Claudette, you can send it to my Facebook Messenger if it does, or to my email. And I'll give you my email here. It's very public, so I don't have any problem typing it in here. Scott Allen Roberts at gmail.com. If any of you want to complain about Rocky Stucci, you can write to that email.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I'm kidding.
I
Rocky and I used to do that when we were doing radio together. And he'd go, oh, they're going to pull my license now for sure. I go, folks, if you want to complain to Rocky, his email is rockystucci at so.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are at the end of this show. We're actually over time.
Yes, we are.
This is my Flip Wilson story.
Yeah, 3 minutes and
And
33.
my throat is about done.
Yeah.
I'm losing my ability to speak
Honey and lemon.
clearly. There it is. Yeah. Honey
Big
and
bag
lemon
of
or wild
lemon.
cherry. I'll do either one.
Hey,
I'm not picky.
hey, but-
I like blonde. I like redhead.
Oh boy.
yeah, I've been
Brunette. I don't
sick.
like the brunette cough drops. So
Ricola.
Hey,
yeah,
I've been pretty busy, and then when I'm not busy, I've been sick.
I see you're making notes.
Yeah. Shameless plug.
All right, shameless plug. Thank you for
Yeah.
that. I hear that's a really good book.
Yeah. Got a really nice picture.
wasn't
in the back
too
of it.
bad.
All right.
It's
Well,
all right.
one of these
No.
days, I'll actually finish writing one of the other books I have to get done, and maybe get a new book out other than my illustrated books. So
I need another one of your books so I can have something else, the shameless plug, other than
I
just
got
the
a
one.
couple around here.
Hey, you can send me the one in Mandarin. That would really
Yeah, I
help.
could send you the Exodus Reality in Mandarin.
Hey, I'll put it on my bookshelf. I have ordered a bookshelf.
Good night,
so
Randall Flagg. All right, everybody. We're going to get out of here. Michael, good to have you. Have a good night, brother. Jason, good to have you as always. I'll
As
talk to you
always.
soon.
Yes, sir.
All right. Everybody else, thanks for being here. Thanks for all your time. And let's just wrap it up with that and get out of here. Live long and prosper.